Welcome to Witness Underground Podcast. Today I have a very special episode with Yatri Sol, an old friend of mine, and a couple of her friends who are here in the background. They're going to ask questions. How are you doing?
Good. Feeling really happy. It is Thanksgiving today.
Can you describe like where we are and what we're doing?
We're in Joshua Tree in my camper van, right next to your camper van. Yeah, on Thanksgiving. So it feels really good to reunite on the side of the world.
Yeah.
And on the side of things. Feeling great.
Yatri and I were both missionaries in Ecuador back in 2006. Well, how long were you there for?
I was there for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where were you the whole time? Were you in the same place the whole time, or did you move around?
No, I was where we met first, in San Miguel de los Bancos in the cloud forest in the center of Ecuador, and then kind of like the base of the mountains, the Andes, and then I moved to Puyo, and I spent most of the time in Puyo, next to, it's like the edge of the Amazon at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like 3 hours from, what is that, like resort, like a adventure sports place?
Yeah.
Baños.
Baños.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thermal
hot springs.
Mm-hmm. City.
They have like
Concrete.
Volcanoes to hike, and zip line stuff, and
Tree houses.
bungee jumping.
Yeah.
Yeah, the place is amazing.
It was like an hour away actually from where I used
Oh,
to
1
live.
hour?
That was like the
Wow.
big, like, okay, I gotta get out of like the city. Actually, it was 2 hours.
Get out of Puyo to go to Baños.
Yeah.
Nice. It's a good retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah, super cool to see you and like
Likewise.
reconnect. Yeah. So you kind of wanted to dive into Ecuador life, and then what your exit from the religion was like, and then like what you're up to now. Maybe we start with the now, because it's actually like happening right now.
Yeah.
What brought you to Joshua Tree?
A lot of things. Love the area and the desert here, and I'm currently living in a little like a little cabin in the woods, up in the redwoods, and so this was like a nice time to come up here, but really good connection to friends. Some really good friends are coming up here, and then also work. This is a great time to be selling my art, and I come down here, and I've been traveling for like maybe 6 months or almost a year in this camper van, and have found some really beautiful hot spots where I can share what I do now, and people are really receptive to it, and being like tarot and astrology and crystal art therapy, and yeah, and so here's one of those hot spots, and people are really interested in what we have to offer. So I've just been here and just enjoying being in the hot air and in the dryness, and climbing and cooking and eating and making money.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the things.
How lucrative is this thing you do?
Well, it's lucrative enough that it's all I have to do.
Okay.
I've been living solely off of doing that, which has been something I've been working up to. I mean, so there's a lot of story. I've been doing this a long time, but in Brazil, and then I'm sure we'll get into all that, but I hadn't really figured out a way to do it in a van in the United States until recently, and to pull all the things together. And I think I've really only been doing this for about 1.5 to 2 years, like successfully, without doing any kind of other work for anyone else, just for myself, and that feels really good.
You feel like you've arrived?
I'm always arriving somewhere new, but yeah, so far, yes, and it feels really good to say that. Yes. Yeah. This was a big goal.
If someone were to walk up to your van and you're at a market, like you're selling tomorrow, for example, like what would they see?
Oh, well, you should come and film that too.
I will, but I want you to say it for the voiceover.
Well, you're gonna see like the ultimate gypsy van, and you're gonna see crystal fantasy everywhere, gold, silver, and tarot cards, and a fortune teller sign, and you're gonna see a menu of different deeper therapies that you can do with us outside of just the market space, but in that space. Lots of telluric treasures to choose from that are all shamanic Reiki infused, so that we're kind of out there saying, hey, come and see what you feel like energetically is what you need right now. And that's what the crystals are all about. And they come to the table and people pick out things, and sometimes it's just strictly because it's presents for their family or whatever, which it will be probably tomorrow because it's Black Friday, but most of the time it's something that really is meaningful to them. So, and it gives us an opportunity to say and to share a little bit more about the energy work that that's also available and offered.
What is it about tarot and fortune-telling type activities that you think is valuable?
So the fortune-telling aspect of it is just kind of like a joke, I guess. Like, it's kind of like something to put on, a costume to put on. But most genuinely and most seriously, tarot is a beautiful mirror, and it's a beautiful mirror of like our consciousness is what I've come to see it as. And so I think it's really important people come and they do a tarot reading on the spot a lot of times, and then they'll get readings that are more in depth later on over online or birth charts, because they do astrology for them. And in the moment they see, you know, what they need to know, and that's like what's happening to them, and if they continue on their path, where they're going, and they have the freedom to choose that. So it's way less about their fortune or their future, as in like what's happening right now and what their subconscious is creating in their reality, being that we are all gods of our own choice and creation, but we don't always realize that. And so this is like a way to show people that to themselves, that this is a mirror of who you are and what you're creating for yourself. Do you like it? If you don't, you can change it.
Right,
yeah.
right. I've done it, and it was actually amazing. Like, I loved it. I didn't do it with you. I did it with another friend, another ex-Jehovah's Witness, actually. But
we will.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's do it after this.
Good.
Today or before you're busy.
Definitely.
Yeah. So one thing that came to mind is, what is it that brought you to Ecuador? I have my story, but how do you make that choice?
Okay, so just really wanted to adventure. I really wanted to be able to like put the two things together, you know, travel, and to feel like at the time I was like in the trying to be the best at the hierarchy of the spiritual religious organization that I was affiliated with, and the highest way that I could see that I could do that as a single female was to be a missionary. And that would be like, I pay for it myself, but I can go and I can be like a need grader is what they call that. And so, you know, really the truth is I just really wanted to travel. And like I wanted to get out of like just the mundane life, and I wanted to do something that I felt like had purpose and was fulfilling. And so yeah, I picked a place on a map on the wall and was like, I'm gonna find out like where the need is great there. So I went there.
Why Ecuador?
Somebody said that it was a good place to go. Like, they gave me like I was like, oh, I was learning Spanish. It was safe for me to be there alone, single. Could live on a pretty inexpensive budget. At least that's what they said. I don't know if it's really actually safe, but
it's not safe.
It's not safe.
It's not safe at all.
But they said it was safe, so I was like, it's either that or Costa Rica, and I was like, just go to Ecuador. I went there first to go visit. I was 17. I flew down there, turned 18. It's on my 18th birthday that I...
As a teenager, already, before you're 18, you're already down there?
Yeah.
Wow. So I met you when you were 21?
Actually, I think you met me when I was like 19, because I remember being super, like, feeling like the youngest one in the group of all of these older 20-year-olds or something.
Yeah,
I
we were so ancient. We were 24.
Like, they were like 24, and I was like, I want to be like grown up like you guys. And I was like this child. No, I think I was like maybe I was probably being younger. I was probably 18.
Okay.
Yeah, I was probably 18. So I turned 18, and then like 2 weeks later, I moved down there. So it was the first time I ever moved out of the house. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know Spanish really. Amazing. It was crazy. But it was, I just like wanted experience, and I wanted to live, and I wanted to live to the fullest and just see what I could do with my life, my big, beautiful, empty, blank canvas of a life.
Yeah. One of the funny things about missionaries, so I lived in Ecuador in Manabí, near Manta, in this little town called Puerto Cayo, and Puerto Lopez is like right down the road, and that's a famous like backpacker spot. That everyone I met there who was a missionary or need grader, or just a traveler who was living down there, foreigner living in Ecuador, who were in the Jehovah's Witnesses, they all told me a story about being robbed at gunpoint. Every one of them.
I can't believe you're going to talk about this.
And they're like, just don't say anything. No matter, like, don't.
Just don't tell anybody.
If we tell them, the word gets out, they won't, like, our parents are paying for us to be here, or like the congregation is funding us. And like, if they find out that it's violent and dangerous, like, they'll pull the plug and we'll all have to go home to Canada or whatever.
Yeah. I got robbed at gunpoint 3 times.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Really? In Los Blancos?
No, not one time in Los Blancos in like the jungle. Actually, they like tried to, and we were like, oh no.
You said
I was
no.
like older than them. I was like, oh no. There's like 3 like younger, and they were younger. Yeah, like 15-year-olds. And I was like, no.
Whoa.
But then the other time it was quite serious, and that was actually in the northern part of Ecuador. But yeah,
wow,
it is. It's serious.
It's a very strange story to have that you were robbed with a gun pointed at you.
Yeah.
We also had a gun pointed at us when we went camping one time.
Yeah.
They thought we were thieves, but they're like, let's get them before they steal our shit. And they were all wasted on Dia de los Muertos. And like this one young guy who's like, he like liked us. All the old guys were like, hack him up, cut him up. This is the end. Like, kill him. We're like, oh my God. I was walking faster than my friends, trying to be the last one to get cut up. Yeah. That's a very, like, we're the most innocent people with like no threat. We're like doing nothing threatening. And if people are trying to kill us, but casually, like it's not a big deal. Or steal our stuff, but.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's not safe. But I mean, it's relatively safe, let's say that.
Yeah.
Don't want to scare anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. I loved it. I would go back, but it has this dangerous edge to it. One thing that was interesting about you down there was like, when we went to visit you, you were like super busy trying to schedule fun with us with your Bible studies and like canceling and calling around. I'm like, oh, I think I can like do this, push it to a different day. You're like 22 Bible studies every week. And we're like, no, like no one's that ambitious. That's crazy.
I was.
Like I'm studying Bible studies all the time.
Because like
really
the more you do,
and
right?
impressive.
Like the more you get like brownie points in heaven, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Just like wanted to be like the most spiritual.
You were the most spiritual, according to them.
Yes.
I think now you're the most spiritual, though.
I think I would hope so.
Yeah.
At this point,
You've done well for yourself.
I'm not trying to be the most spiritual or anything, but I just like really tried to be like authentically spiritual, at least according to what it means to me. At the time, it was like I think at the time it was authentic, to be fair. And I have to like say that. It really was authentic because it was like what I understood spirituality to be and like goodness to be and purpose to be. And I was like trying my best to be the best version of that, very ambitiously. Even though now I feel like that was a completely different version of the reality that I would hold. But yeah, that was then.
Well, was there like after those 3 years, did you come back? Or where did you go after that? Did you leave the religion right after Ecuador, or did you have like a life after that in the Witnesses?
I had a whole life, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so Ecuador, and then, so after that, I moved to Puyo, right, and I was in the Amazon, and I was translating the Bible.
Into what?
I was translating Spanish to Shuar, working with the Sansa people, the head shrinkers. I
met your roommate you were living with when you first got there.
Yes,
when you had the snakes and the baby monkeys.
Yes, started my own like Amazon zoo in my house, and I had this tribal roommate who ended up eating my monkey at one point. Yeah,
oh my God.
This is a whole other story, but yeah, it's super traumatizing. I had to move out after that, but she was like a special pioneer, actually.
The Shuar woman.
Shuar woman, yeah, special pioneer woman, and yeah, so that was that whole season of life.
Special pioneer is like 90 hours a month of preaching.
It was 120 at that time. So I was doing 75 hours a week of like, or a month of, volunteer service. And then she was doing 120. And she was actually, when you do that, even as a single woman, that's actually like the ultimate goal. So I was like, by association, trying to be like the most spiritual.
So the goals are like to have respect in the congregation, but also like get access to the top quality men. I imagine.
I guess. Like, I always thought, like, well, actually, what I always understood was that, what I was always told is that the greatest thing is to go to Gilead, and you would have to be married to do that, and then you get paid to travel around the world. And so I was like, oh, yeah, so like that's what I have to do. So,
what's funny is paid is like, they cover your cost of housing in some like
They cover
shack.
your cost of housing, yeah. And so I was like trying to be a single missionary so that when I was older, at one point someday, I could like marry another, really high up ranking brother, and then I could go to Gilead with him, and we would like have our way paid to go travel around and like preach the message, save everyone for the world. Yeah, that was the goal then. That was it. But to answer your question, so then I actually had a really traumatic experience that I don't want to get too terribly into, but just like briefly, like what like really made me start asking questions about the faith was that I had he was a circuit overseer. Actually, he was a circuit overseer, and he developed schizophrenia, but also like an obsession with me at the same time, and he was like married and. Yeah, so like he left the organization, but like really terrorized me in the middle of it, and I was asked to leave the country.
Whoa.
Yeah.
By who?
By the other elders.
Like in your congregation
there? Because they couldn't keep me safe. And I never even told you that story, but I was really traumatized by that because I was like, why didn't you keep me safe? So I had this really big conflict. I went back to the United States, disguised as a man, so this guy wouldn't find me because they couldn't keep him out of jail. So it was like this crazy story, but
you had to leave town just dressed as a man.
So that he wouldn't find me.
Wow.
Yeah, so I like cried the whole way. I didn't want to leave. I was like super happy with the work I was doing, translating the Bible and Shwar, and I was super entertained with what I was doing and felt like I had a lot of purpose. Even though I was like deeply sad, I look back at that now and I was like deeply lonely because I was the only like gringa, you know, for 200 miles. Like Scott would come to find me and be like, "Are you still alive?" Like,
it's a funny story because like all of our friends on the beach and the ocean, we were like all these Jehovah's Witness surfers. And they were like, "Have you heard from Jen?" They knew we kept in contact. And I was like, "No, I haven't heard from her." Like, we've been trying to text her for like a month. I was like, "All right, I'll go." What town? Puyo is the last time she was seen. So I went to Puyo and like 8 or 10 hour bus ride or something overnight. And I roll into Puyo and I get off the bus and I'm like, my Spanish was terrible at the time because I hadn't taken any lessons. And I was like, "I'm looking for a gringa." And they're like, "Blue house." And I was like,
"Blue house on the hill."
Okay, that's the first lead. And they're like, "Just wait, we'll drive you up there." And then they hung out in this like the first people I met were also Jehovah's Witnesses, which is super strange because there's not that many. And like they're like car seat repair people, so I was like hanging out with them. They gave me my first jungle banana, and it was like this little short banana. They're like, "We give you guys the long tasteless ones in North America, but these are the real deal." So like, I ate this like really sweet, delicious banana, and then they took me into your house, and it was your house. Like they knew you, and it was like the easiest thing in the world to find you in the Amazon. I like literally walked like 10 like blocks from the bus station or whatever.
I remember.
And you were there.
Shut up with a beard.
Did I?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe.
And I was like, "You're embarrassing me right now. Like I'm supposed to be like the super spiritual thing."
Beards aren't spiritual.
No, beards
weirdly,
aren't
like
spiritual.
every Jehovah's Witness literature, all Israelite men have beards. Jesus has a beard, and no witnesses have a beard. But then all the future art that they do about heaven, all the angels have beards. Jesus and God have, well, God's face hasn't shown.
I never realized that. That is so ridiculous.
Every man has a beard in their literature except modern day Jehovah's Witnesses. So,
yeah, and you were a bad example if you had a beard or like long hair.
I was trying to be like Jesus.
Except from in Ecuador, actually. It was like they could have long hair. The natives could, which was cool.
Yeah.
Yep. But anyway, so I like went back super traumatized, right? And had to like process a lot of that. And I had like dualities about it. It made me have big doubts about like God and like my role, and I felt like, you know, I should have been like more protected from that. I was like doing God's work and service and everything. So I like went back and I was like super at post-traumatic stress, and I confused my doubts about God, and like it wasn't like a cut and dry situation. So it took me a long time, maybe like 4 years to really process like what my doubts were, if they were valid or not. Like, was it okay to like even like I was really confused. I went back. I was actually really depressed, and then I started pioneering again.
Where's back though?
Back
America?
to America.
To Spokane.
To Spokane. I had nothing. It was really hard to get like start over and everything. And I would like see billboards and I would cry and like look at the water bottles that had chemicals in them and cry because I hadn't been back. You know, I was like just missed the jungle and like the detoxification. But I got it all together and started working again, and I started pioneering again, and I started being like traveling again. So then I traveled all over the world. I started traveling and pioneering because I was started volunteering with the Hispanic people that lived there, so the immigrants, and that was like how I felt like I was
in
doing
Washington
good work.
State, but mostly in Spokane or
Washington
around?
and Idaho. I actually like moved around, and I started doing the same kind of work that I was doing in Ecuador, in Washington, and in Idaho. So started using my Spanish to like help people and working with young people and immigrants too. And I was working as a translator for work and cleaning houses.
Oh yeah, your Spanish was amazing when we met you. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know at the time, but like you were very comfortable.
Young. Yeah, I was really young. I spent a long time. I didn't know any. I hardly spoke English. So it was like, you know, dive in, sink or swim, you know?
Yeah.
So that was helpful. But yeah, so then I went to India. I think like what really happened, I had a lot of doubts. And then I had another traumatic experience, had a boyfriend who was an elder. So I was like on my way to the Gilead situation, my first like real dating experience. And he turned apostate.
Oh,
while we were, I turned apostate. This was like, yeah. And so he turned apostate. And so I was like, well, shit, like, and I was still a pioneer, and he was a pioneer and an elder, and we were like a couple, and it was like this, and I like, of course, like had to publicly short, you know, like just be like super embarrassed about him too, and it was this huge ordeal. But he would bring up things that I was like, I don't have answers to that. The same sort of questions that you brought up that I was like, you know, avoiding you about because you were talking about really uncomfortable things, and so I was just like, man, like I don't have answers. I was really emotional, but I didn't have concrete answers, and it brought up all these other doubts that I was like trying to cover up for. So I started like just really paying attention to the doubts that I had. I went to meetings and I would like cry at the meetings, go back out to my car, and I was just like, and I went and I was like, I'm spiritually sick to the elders, you know, like I'm spiritually sick, like these are my doubts, like, and I tried to do it all the right way, write them all out, and then they would like sit with me and they'd be like, yeah, we have some of these questions too, you know, or print me out some
interesting. What are some of the
paperwork.
questions? Do you remember the issues?
They were, I can't really remember. I can't even remember now, actually, like what the specifics of the questions were. It was like something around, you know, the 144,000, and I just like, I had some issues with like the Bible, and I think like there's a lot of things to get into, but I think it was an overall like feeling that one thing I do have to share that I think would be like more relevant than getting into like all the details was I started doing yoga. And that was like prohibited. Like my dad was like, you can't do yoga and be a pioneer. And I was like, if I can't do yoga and pioneer, I don't think I'm going to be a pioneer. I don't think I'm going to be a Jehovah's Witness. I didn't go that far. I wasn't ready for it. But I was like, this is the best thing I have physically experienced and mentally experienced. And so that was a huge thing. I was like into salsa dancing and traveling, and everything that I really like gave me joy and made me feel really happy was like dangerous, and I was feeling like repressed by it, like I couldn't do any of those things. And so, but yoga was like, I felt I sensed spirituality in that, and I was like, nope, like this, I'm gonna fight for this one. So I went to India, and I went to India. I was like, I'm gonna study what this is, if this is like such a bad thing. So I went to like hang out with the Jehovah's Witnesses in India and like figure it all out and do yoga there, and just I was like, if all of these people are wrong, and like only Jehovah's Witnesses, which are this really small fraction of people in India, I was like, if this is the only people that are going to survive in this highly spiritual place where I can feel, I can like sense and intuit a spirituality that I can't even understand, this can't be right. Like they can't all be destroyed. There's something that's missing, something that's wrong.
So interesting.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I never shared that part. So yeah, so yoga was a big part of it, and in the end there was a lot of things, and I just kind of, I wasn't sure that I was doing the right thing, but I just bought a one-way ticket to Brazil, and I was like, I'm going to figure it out, and I'm not coming back until I do.
Okay.
And that's what I did.
Oh, wow. So your awakening was sort of like partially influenced by yoga and your experience in India, and your questions.
Yeah. I mean, it was awakened by like a series of events, like, and you were part of that. You leaving and being like super like obvious about it, and not having like clear answers to you, and not having clear answers to my boyfriend, and then not having clear answers to myself, and then like having other friends that were even pioneers that would come up with things. And I remember like one time, like it was like this noni thing. I was taking care of a lighthouse. It was like this bad thing that happened that we didn't want to talk about. I was taking care of a lighthouse with this girlfriend of mine who was also a pioneer, and she got drunk one night, and she was like mortified about it, and she told me a story about having smoked marijuana and how she had this incredible experience, and she was like, but I don't understand, and I have all these doubts. And she told me when she was drunk that she had all these doubts about the religion, but then when she was sober the next day, not only did she want to admit to it or like talk about it, but she also didn't want to like admit to the fact that she admitted that she had doubts, you know, like all these doubts about the religion. And I was just like, this is shitty. Like, this doesn't feel authentic. This feels like everybody is like hiding, and it's super scary to face it. But I mean, it meant like the end of everything, because my dad was like, is as high as it gets, almost the hierarchy of everything.
Which hierarchy level is he at?
I think at this time he's a circuit overseer.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. He's definitely serving where the need is greater. He's a missionary. He's in Costa Rica. He was always an elder pioneer. Like, I'm the prodigy of elder pioneer parents. Mm. Both of them.
Progeny.
Yeah.
Progeny, not prodigy. That's really funny.
Yes.
I was a child prodigy.
Yeah, so that was like the leaving, and then I think like that process of like really like feeling like I was done, and it was like a gradual thing in Brazil. It took a long time to just like give myself an organic amount of time and space to just hear myself think and not be like plagued and by all the doubts and like all the voices in my head from everyone that I knew, and all the fears of like what it would mean to leave.
Do you want to explain to us what a circuit overseer is?
Oh yeah, circuit overseer. So there's like circuits. They split up the different zones of like, I mean, how they organize this religion.
Probably,
yeah, like
you say simply, it's like a circuit overseer oversees like 15 congregations or 20
oversees
or something.
Congregations. Mm-hmm.
So like one group of like one region, like northeastern Washington and Idaho might have like one or something.
Yeah,
right?
so like he's not only like a pastor level, but this is like he's like the one that's gonna go and like pastor the elders too, and like pastor like the different congregations, make sure everything is running smoothly. So yeah.
They come in, like we had one circuit overseer come through, and like our elders in my home congregation where I grew up had like 3 or 4 elders. They're all farmers, all related to one family. And he saw that as a problem, and so like he came in and was like, "This isn't working." The presiding overseer, like the leader of the elders for that congregation, is sort of like the patriarch, and it needs to change. He's stubborn, and he's not really towing the line of the corporation. So he ousted all the elders, and we got a whole new group of elders that came in from like different congregations, like traveled in.
Wow. I think I'm gonna squeeze out really fast, actually. I think it's time.
Okay. Thanks for sitting with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, it definitely took me on a journey of your life. Thank you for sharing that.
For as long as you did. And that was a good question. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see you. Do you have any questions for us? You good?
I was like wondering what your boyfriend what happened to him? What did he do?
Oh, apostate. That's
What's
a good
an
question
apostate?
too. Maybe you can explain that since you got so heavily accused of being an apostate.
We are apostates. No.
I felt funny like asking because I thought it was like common knowledge or something. But
Oh
I'm like,
yeah, no, that's why you're here. Thank you for interjecting. Apostates are, according to the definition, dictionary definition is like anyone who no longer believes the faith that they were brought up with. It's like if you used to be a Muslim, and you no longer believe that Allah is your God or that something's wrong with the religion, you're an apostate if you no longer believe it. But the definition that Jehovah's Witnesses use, and they basically call anyone who leaves the religion for any reason at all an apostate, and they consider them mentally diseased, and
They tell you.
they become, in the moment of leaving the religion, they become the Antichrist and an enemy of God. And it's like the most evil thing you can do, or like, according to them, or you're like they believe that you're actively working against God's Holy Spirit, and you should be afraid of apostates. They're the
They
most
tell
dangerous.
everyone else that this is, like that's the most dangerous thing. And the reason that when you start asking questions about what is in the publications, that's like apostate attitude, and that's all like this ex-boyfriend was doing at the time. He was an elder though. He was an elder pioneer.
That's
too.
really rare.
It's very rare, but he
yeah.
was very young. He was only 26, and so he was like an overachiever too.
Okay.
Also went to Ecuador and all things.
And we're back. We had a cold section, and a friend left, so. Okay. You just got to Brazil after India, and I get the impression you were disillusioned and not sure what your next steps were. Like, how long were you there, and like, what was it like? Like, what was your deconversion there?
Process? So I was like, I was still trying to go to meetings, and so I went to a couple of meetings, and I just, I really wasn't feeling the vibe. And I stopped going out in service after a while, and I remember like them like judging me, so I wasn't going out in service.
This is Brazil.
This was in Brazil.
Okay, so you actually got active in the congregation then.
I never switched my cards over.
That's the trick. I did the same thing. No one could ever track me down. No one cared.
And that's
because they weren't responsible. Yeah. Highly recommend not changing your cards over, people.
So I just kind of like left, and then I just stopped going. I just stopped going to meetings, and I had so much fear of stopping going to meetings. I was like, if I stop going to meetings and I stopped reading the Bible, because I was so dedicated, I read the Bible every day, and I studied for all the meetings, and I did all the things you're supposed to do. And that does keep you brainwashed enough that you like stay doing what you're supposed to do. You know, it can anyway, because it keeps you only ingesting the information that's what you're going to think of, and that's what your thoughts are going to be like made of, if that's what you're ingesting. So when you stop ingesting, everything, I was so afraid that I was going to lose divine approval. I remember like crying at the beach, like just being like, I'm so afraid of losing divine approval, which is valid. But what I really learned was like, I had to have approval of myself, and I wasn't approving of living a life that I had so much doubts, and I was like being consumed about doubts and fear. So I stopped going to meetings and started facing my fear, this big, deep darkness, and all these fears of like all these voices in my head of what was going to happen if you left, if you stopped, having Jehovah's approval and organization's approval. And not to mention, from coming from a background of like being high up on the radar of like, I guess everybody else's view of what I was doing, like being an example. That's why I think I felt safe to organically do this in Brazil in that process.
Do you think that being far away from your like people that you respected or respected you or something was like made it easier?
It made it way easier. Yeah, it made it so much easier, because I knew that the moment that I had conversations with those people, they were going to influence me, and I was really deeply influenced by like specifically like my father. Like his opinion meant so much to me. It was almost like it was like God, like he was like God, he was like Father and God. And so like I loved him so much, and I was like so afraid of like losing my relationship with him that I was super confused, and that was the truth. And so it took me a long time though. I stopped going to meetings, and I was like waiting for the I guess like the end of my like happiness to occur. And what I found was I just was so I felt like completely just engulfed by the love of the world and like the magic of the world and the universe in a way that I never expected. I totally imagined all the opposite, because that's like what I imagined. That's what I was told. Yeah, it was totally the opposite. Life was just like, was really magical, and I kept like experiencing new things, and I was like really safe and really protected and around really good people.
That's what Satan does to you.
Yeah, that's what Satan does to you.
He got you. You're trapped now.
Satan trapped me. I was waiting for Satan's snare. I was waiting for Satan to get me, actually. I was always waiting for Satan to get me.
What would happen if Satan got you?
I don't know, maybe this. Probably this.
You live a fulfilling life.
Yes, live a fulfilling life.
Satan's so terrible.
I know. Boy, but the fear of Satan, man, like, and the fear of the demons, and the fear of like, yeah, just like all of that was pretty intense. It finally went away, and I realized like it couldn't keep going. There eventually had to be consequences. Like eventually, I was like always waiting for like the moment to come where like my life was all going to fall apart because I wasn't going to the meetings, and I wasn't going on service, and I wasn't reading the Bible. I wasn't praying anymore, and it was the hardest thing was to stop praying. I was just like, I remember my last prayer at the time was, Jehovah, like, I don't know if I might be wrong. Like I really believed, and I held this deep belief in myself that maybe they were all right, and maybe Jehovah was right, and the Bible was right, and Jehovah's Witness was right, my dad was right, everybody was right, but I couldn't do it. It was like I was the black sheep. Like maybe it was just wrong for me. Like I was like crying deep inside. I was depressed. Couldn't do it. I was like, I just couldn't live like this. It just like was totally out of harmony with like everything that my insides were telling me I needed to be and be doing. it didn't seem that bad to me. And then when I tried doing them, like my life like actually got better, like in all the ways. And so I was like, whoa, this is so confusing. I just like, I don't know. I guess like if I'm wrong, I'll find out. Like I'm going to have to do it this way. I'm going to have to do it the hard way. And what I found out was no, actually it never happened. Like my life kept getting better and better and better. And yeah, it was, the hard part has been the process of, you know, the belief systems that are still ingrained and like, I guess detangling and the sabotaging of your self-worth. And I mean, I believed that so long that like maybe I was the one that was wrong. It took me a long time to have a lot of self-confidence that I wasn't wrong until I went to a meeting about 2 years later. So I didn't go to a meeting for 2 years, and I went to a meeting. I was trying to make it to the memorial and missed it or something. So I went into a meeting, and I remember I went crying because I was so terrified that I was going to get like sucked back in to the whole thing, like the organization and God's like, you know, like energy on me, and I was going to be like pulled back into it. And Jehovah was going to tell me, you know, like, oh, like you've been gone and come back. And I didn't want to go back, but I wanted to be free of like the doubt about it. And so I was really open-minded, and I did the same prayer that I was speaking of 2 years earlier, that, you know, if this is really real, like show me. Like if I'm wrong, show me. Like I want to know that I'm wrong. Like I've always served you. I've never done anything wrong. You know, I was a virgin until I was 26, never did nothing. Never did nothing wrong.
So sorry. So many missed opportunities.
I know. Trust me.
So many beautiful men out there.
I know. So many years, but that's okay, you know. I just had to make up for it later. But I really felt like I had no reason for God not to talk to me and to tell me like what I was missing. And in 2 years, nothing happened. Like, I never felt that. But I had this, like, doubt, this lingering doubt about it because I hadn't been going back to meetings. So I was like, well, maybe God will talk to me if I go back to a meeting. I went back to a meeting, and I was like, oh, my God. You know, everybody's, like, answering. I was like, they're just, like, brainwashed. I was like, everybody just seems, like, super brainwashed. Like, this is, like, at that time, I had organically, like, healed enough my brain, my body, and my consciousness, my intuition that I could just, like, watch. And I was just, like, really open-minded. But, yeah, I left, and I was just like, whoa, no, this isn't it. And that freed me a lot. I was like, and so I really encourage people to go back to a meeting and to like be fearless about it and just be like how do I feel about this? And to do it in a place where you don't know people, because people that's where your emotions come into it. Like not where your family is and not like where your friends are, because that just sucks. And they use the shaming and stuff to make you feel like to feel things that are natural to feel. But that's a confusion of like what is really true and what is natural emotion.
You're absolutely right about that. I did a similar thing when I was in Vietnam. I went to a memorial, but I went there with the purpose of making a video because I was working on some videos for this project, some early videos. And my girlfriend and I took her to the memorial. It felt like, it felt so strange, like dressed up nice and went there. And actually there was like an elder there, or special pioneer or something, couple from Ecuador who had served in Ecuador. And I was like, I so want to dive in and find out if we have any shared connections, but I resisted. But there was definitely a bunch of the just seeing the brainwashing from the outside. Like, at that point I'd been out already like 10 years. So it wasn't like super fresh and raw like it probably was for you at that point, just a couple of years out. But the personalities are there and the culture functions the same. Like the elders came and talked to me, and like some woman tried to got the number of my girlfriend at the time and was like trying to set up a Bible study, and I was like, this is so like I could have written down the script of what was going to happen when we walked into this room. People that approach you, what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, how they're going to treat you, the questions that I would get because they're skeptical of me. They wanted to figure out where I am in the hierarchy, if I'm in the religion or not. And it was really interesting. And of course they were curious because I brought this exact camera that we're filming on, and it's like, you know, it's a gigantic thing. And it's no one does that. No one takes a camera to the Kingdom Hall. But yeah, it was eye-opening, and I'm really glad I did go back just to see what it's like. Or I didn't go for that purpose, but I went and I got to see what it was like again with fresh eyes and like no dogma running through my head. I feel like
a new visit is coming on. I've been actually sensing that.
You want to go back again?
I think it'll be like 9. It's been like 9 years. Okay. So I feel like this would be really good to go back and just be like, hey, and stop in and see like what's up and how things are going. And
I've told Ron go.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally.
He's, like,
Yeah.
He's encouraging me. If it wasn't for COVID, I probably would have actually. So.
I mean, they're lovely people. They just have a lot of really bad ideas, and their culture functions like in a very dangerous way, and it tears families apart. There's a lot of other problematic things, but like in a general sense, it's like it's a church with like good people who are there with generally good intentions.
Absolutely.
Don't knock the people, really.
Not at all. And I think they do have good intentions. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Like to really, I mean, I went through like a hate period where I was just like, and I would say like that's like more like what apostasy really, like people are like, because I was like posting things because I was really angry, you know, at first. And so I think that that's natural, and like talking about like natural emotions, and that's a part of like the grieving process. Mm-hmm. And I was grieving, you know, I was grieving the loss of my family and my friends and my belief system and my God and
your whole worldview.
My whole worldview, you know, like I was really close to this concept of God that I had to. Like I really believed that, like, yeah, everything, and just to realize that I was wrong about it all, or like at least And I think that was like a grief that was really deep. And then I was really angry. I was really angry because there are things to be angry about, to be honest. You know, there are.
It is a grief process to lose all those. It's a huge loss. And they impose that loss on you.
Yeah.
The individuals have to shun you. Otherwise, they will be treated the way you're being treated, like cut off from everyone.
Have you guys seen people like leave and then come back in
and
like
happen.
And stay?
It does happen, but the people, like I've seen disfellowship people when I was growing up get kicked out and then like go through solitary confinement or whatever for a year where no one will talk to them and they're treated like they're dead and their closest friends and family won't communicate with them. And they come crawling back, but they're broken.
That's the process though, huh? You have to be like dead for a year.
Yeah. And you have to show up 3 days a week and have people not talk to you and like look away from you and not catch your eye.
For almost a year, 6 months to a year minimum, and you have to write a letter that says like why you want to come back and be introduced as a upstanding Jehovah's Witness, and then like they make an announcement with your name saying that you can be now considered a Jehovah's Witness and everyone can talk to you. So it's like very public. You have to like situation.
Up until that moment, you have to basically plead with them, like
multiple
come
times.
Crawling back, pleading and like give up all control essentially to them. They want
Total
control
submission.
of your lives.
Yeah. I mean, like they want you
to submit.
Yeah. So that it's not that they want to control your life; it's that they want like you to be under the control of like this whole mindset system, and to prove that you're under that control. And you do have to let them, let that take over your life for you to like be in it.
Yeah.
Really.
But it is a grieving process, and the thing that's different about grieving and death is that these people are choosing to treat you this way, or the system is forcing them to do that.
Death would be much easier.
Yeah, death's easier because the grieving process, like they are there choosing to not to treat you like you're dead, or to pretend they're dead to you, or whatever however you want to look at it. Like they make themselves ghosts in your life.
Yeah, because death isn't personal.
And sometimes this has
and this is personal.
Yeah, this is personal.
This is very personal, and there's a lot of it feels like there's such strong judgment. So, and that's really hard to come back and like have like self-worth, because like everyone that you know thinks that you are the dirt of the earth. Like the people, like they treat you as if like you're not even worth. Like you're just gonna die. You're gonna be destroyed. So like
God hates you. Therefore, they have all the reason to hate you and like.
It's not even like, and they love you actually, and that's the truth. And so it's just like I have a lot of compassion. But they treat you like they hate you, and they're supposed to hate you. And then they're supposed to like be. They're supposed to hate what you're doing, not you. Yeah. Let's be fair. Like they're supposed to hate what you're doing. But yeah, I mean that's fair. It's like it's confusing, but they're supposed to hate what you're doing and to really show and prove that they hate what you're doing to the point of like extreme measures. And that's what's really painful if they actually do that. And that's what's been painful. And to answer, to like just comment on this, like I have seen friends where this happens to, and I'm like so grateful this wasn't my experience, but I've had friends where it didn't go so well, like where they did end up having really traumatic experiences, and they didn't have enough time out to like be fortunate enough to like be held and like caught by the world, carried by the world, like in a positive way. Maybe they were younger. I think like I was 26 when I actually like did it. And I know that I was afraid to do it before then because I had doubts probably earlier, like maybe 16, 18, 21, but I was afraid of like what would happen if I left then. Like what would happen to me? I would go to the world and who knew, I had a lot of fear, and you know, sometimes those fears are like to protect you, and sometimes they're just to control you. But I didn't know the difference. Anyway, but the point is that yeah, that sometimes it doesn't go so well, and those are the ones that they'll come running back because they're like, oh my God, you're right. It's a really scary world out there because we don't have tools to like not have it be a scary world out there. And that's like one of the things that I like want to talk about to people today, you know, like, is that it doesn't have to be a scary world out there. You know, there are tools and there's people, and the process that I went through was really hard. I isolated myself because I believed I deserved it, you know, and I still like fight that, like feeling like I have to be small so that, you know, I might not affect other people's lives. And with years, I'm more confident now of like sitting in front of a camera and talking about it and being like, you know, this is my experience. This is how I feel about it. And this is how I feel about spirituality. And this is how I feel about that religion and my experience in it. Because it's true. This is my experience. And it's been all the things. It's taught me a lot, and it's given me a lot of pain. You know, and I have a lot of clarity around that now that I didn't have then. But in the process, in the first initial process for people, they get it doesn't go well for them, and they come running back and they're like, yeah, you're right. You know, it's a really scary world out there. Like, let me back in to this community that it's, you know, all my needs are taken care of. And out there, no, you know, I don't know anyone, and like people are taking advantage of me, and I don't know how to like coexist in that world because I've never had to learn skills to do that.
Right. They really cut you off from learning throughout your life how to deal with people in a healthy way. In general, like
the world,
in or outside,
anyone, like work, relationships, just like everyone. There's like this like glass. Like I felt that for the longest time, and I'm only now just not like, I guess, like not living life like that, like where there's like a glass between me and the world, because that glass is like the way that I was raised was like that there's you, and then there's like the rest of the world, and like they're outsiders and they're not safe, and that's not true.
It's unhealthy to think like that. It's
very unhealthy. And if that's how you live your life, that is the kind of vibration that you're going to attract. Like that's the reality you'll create for yourself until you know, like in a safe ways realize that you can create a different reality by trying, you know. But yeah, what I want to say about it is that it doesn't have to be this hard.
What's the easy path?
The easier path would be not isolating yourself out of shame, out of guilt. Like ask questions, not to be afraid of people. You know, just like the truth. The truth is that the truth will stand amidst any amount of questioning, if it's really the truth.
Right. That's definitely true.
And so, like, not being afraid to ask questions, and like ask the people, like ask a lot of different people. Ask people that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses. Ask people that are. Get help, get counseling, you know? Like, there are counselors for this. I mean, this is a new thing that I'm even figuring out now. Like, that you can get help, and there's so many things. Just don't be afraid to explore, but explore safely, and don't, like, try to do it alone, you know? Don't try to do it alone. Reach out to people that are, like, offering their services in this area, and you know, like, maybe we can connect to, like, what is the one that you just shared with me?
Recoveringfromreligion.org.
Recoveringfromreligion.org, which
you can chat with them, live chat. There's volunteers all over the world in many languages. You can call them in many countries. They're volunteers. They're secular, non-religious, so you're not getting like mixed up in false religion. You can. It's not that they're atheists. They're just like they're not affiliated with religion in any way, and they have vetted like all the therapists that they have in their network. And the therapists that they work with are also secular, non-religious, and a lot of them, all the ones that they've vetted that are on their list wherever you live, are specialized in cult and former religion therapy.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I still haven't even done this. I've been out 9 years. I would say like 7 of those years in isolation. I was in Brazil for 7 years, like trying to figure it out. Really, just figure it out. And
did you figure it out?
Man, I'm still figuring it out. But I had to like just organically deprogram myself. That's what I was doing. Mm-hmm. But I did it alone, and then I would find things organically that felt like, astrology, or like this is like, whoa, or Reiki, or, you know, all the things that I now do, or like teacher continue to study. And at the time, like studying those things and experiencing those things as therapy were what really like were the big things that helped me to snap and to grow and to continue to expand, and eventually coming back home to the family, and then like facing that. But it took me 7 years.
Did you do that? Did you face them?
I have. I come back. I tried facing my family, and I wrote. I hadn't spoken to my father in many days of my, any of my family, and I came back to do the family thing. I came back in person and looked for them, and have been actively actually trying to do that. And that's been, I think, the healthiest thing, going back to like the root and the source of what I guess like where, and sometimes that is healthy and sometimes it's not. Sometimes you go and then you leave, I'm not back exactly in the same hometown or anything, like trying to be friends with my old friends, but like reconnecting at one point and saying, hey, this is here I am, and here I am, and here we are, and this is really healthy. So yeah, that I think like coming back and reconnecting to old friends and people that have left, people that are in, and just like showing up when you're ready, showing up to bridge the new self and the old self with proper boundaries for yourself and for others. It's really healthy. It's one regret I would say I have, and in a way,
what's
I guess
the regret?
The regret is that I didn't share my process until now. I was very much like the underground. I was in the underground doing a lot of it because I was afraid of influencing people, and now I'm like, it's not about influencing people, but it's about like people that might need to hear that story, and I know I needed to hear that story. And I didn't hear it from very many people, but the people that I heard it from helped me a lot. And so, yeah, just like if it is somebody's experience, I think it's really important to hear it and to know that you can reach out and like, I want to be available for people like me. And that's like one of those things that I'm going to
how do people reach you?
Sure. Well, I'm Yatri Sol. YatriSol.com is my website. Yatri Sol is on Instagram.
YATRISOL.
Yep. And I do like cosmotherapy now, so lots of different things that I offer to people that have helped me tremendously to find clarity, spiritual clarity. I'm a spiritual and intuitive coach now for people from all different kinds of backgrounds. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, integrative kind of medicine.
If somebody were to reach you there, what kind of thing could they do with you, or how would that experience go for someone?
If somebody reaches out, I just want to talk to them, like either via email or Instagram or whatever, and just see what who you are and what your experience is and what you're looking for, and just get to know you a little bit. Maybe a phone call, or it could be a Zoom call or whatever, just briefly, and kind of see like what you need. And then what I offer, what I really like to do is, I guess like I offer a lot of different things depending on what makes you feel the most comfortable. But my favorite thing to do with people that have never done it, I think, like that are coming from that background, if you're comfortable with it, would be like to do a natal chart, which is astrology, which is your birth chart, and it really shows you who you came into this world to be. And I think that that's really helpful. And so like coming from there, or maybe even just like a tarot reading or an astrology, and then if not, like just like spiritual coaching, just like, hey, like talk to me, like what's your experience? And
you do a tarot reading over the phone or a Zoom call or something?
All the time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's like a really nice way to check in, and it is kind of scary like that, and we don't have to start with those things like for people that they've never done that before, but I also want to be a safe place for people that want to do it for the first time. But it can also just be like conversation, just a conversation. I want to be available for like the conversation and for the process and coaching through the process. Yeah, and there's yoga and yoga retreats that are coming up, and a lot of different things that will be posted on the website that
you teach yoga, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
In person?
Yoga. Yep, in person, and we are always organizing like yoga seminars and workshops and things that is often incorporate more than just yoga, but like yoga, astrology, that are designed to help people really find the core of themselves, who they really are underneath all the programming, which we get outside of just religion, right? So
I guess teach yoga might be the wrong way to say it. You instruct yoga, is that right?
Yeah.
Or both?
Mm-hmm, both.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And there's other things too, there's a lot of other things, there's a lot of tools, but after talking to someone, it's the easiest way to kind of know from there, like what I may recommend for them, and if I can help them or not. You know?
Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah,
Coming on.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And for inviting us into your van. It's really cool.
This is rare. Yes. Welcome.
Yeah, it's a very special space. And I'm so glad you were able to like hit the road. You had a travel bug when I met you, and you were deep in it. And you were like living in the middle of the jungle with like, and sharing your spirit and skills and joy then. I feel like now you like come into your own.
That feels really good to hear. Yeah, I feel that too. Yeah, like completely my own. And that's still evolving, so that's still evolving all the time. That feels good.
What's your future?
The future?
Yeah, what's the future for you?
It's so big. I have a lot of dreams, but I guess like the immediate future is I'm gonna cook up some food to share for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do right now. The bonfire here in Joshua Tree with our friends. That's my immediate future.
Yeah. It's been really fun out here.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that, and then I've got a lot of big things that are on the mind. But I'm gonna post those on the Instagram, and I'm gonna post those on the website. So look forward to that. Look into that, and it'll be exciting to meet up with anybody that like wants to connect some more.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've definitely, like, I don't know, you don't know everyone here personally that well. There's a few of your close friends that we saw you were singing with last night, but you attract good people.
Yeah,
it's been super fun to like see them and like have an instant connection with everybody and have such a welcoming group. And
it's been beautiful
for us as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Very genuine people who are there to share, here to share.
Yes.
It's really special.
It is really special. I feel so grateful for that. That's what I have to say.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming to Witness Underground podcast and paying attention. Check out our website, yatrisol.com, and see you on the next one.